Our next speaker today is Steve Stroud. Steve is the UAS Aviation Inspector and Fleet Manager at the Office of Aviation Services for the Department of the Interior. With 22 years of operational fire experience, including being a qualified Air Tactical Group Supervisor, he continues to help integrate UAS into wildland fire operations. Steve will also be assisting in the development of various contracts for UAS services and fleet management issues. Today, Steve is going to present about UAS usage on incidents. Welcome, Steve.
Thanks, Diane. Go ahead and get started. Going to give an overview of the entire Department of Interior Unmanned Aircraft program, and then specifically on incident utilization. So who we are. So DOI, we manage 9 different bureaus. Most of you are familiar with all of them. The Bureau of Land Management, National Park Service, Fish and Wildlife Service, BLM, all are fire agencies. So we cover about 1/5 of the landmass. Here at the Office of Aviation Services in the Unmanned Aircraft Department, we manage all contract purchase, acquisition, and training for unmanned aircraft for the entire department. So why do we want to implement UAS? Well, like I said before, we manage 1 in every 5 acres, a very diverse mission set, remote areas, sensitive landscapes, whether it be archaeological sites or national critical infrastructures. We deal with wildlife and threatened and endangered species, public land, public safety, whether it be law enforcement or other capacities. And then UAS, because of the accessibility, how affordable it is, and the high resolution capability of the sensors that we have. So a brief history of UAS in the Department of Interior. Started out with USGS doing balloons, and then people just using their RC airplanes and putting whatever type sensors they could on them. 2006, DOI began planning for a UAS program. 2009, we got about $25 million of excess DoD aircraft. 2 aircraft, the RQ-11 Raven and the RQ-16 T-Hawk, the flying garbage can you can see in the lower left there. Those aircraft were capable, but the sensor technology from, if it's excess DoD, you're looking at 10-year-old sensors. So the sensors in a GoPro Hero 4 are better than what was available in those military excess equipment. So we approved a training program in 2012, and we worked directly with the FAA from the inception of the program to establish a criteria to be able to use unmanned aircraft in the national airspace in the commercial capacity. Part of that was helping develop Part 107 of the FAA CFRs. So that was a pretty important portion of how we started and how we developed. So the legal and regulatory framework for the DOI, when the FAA deemed that UAS, even if it's a small UAS that's being used in a commercial capacity, it's deemed an aircraft. So we have to follow the same rules, or at the time we had to develop rules for the FAA to allow UAS in a commercial capacity. So within the DOI, we developed and oversaw the policy and established programs to get an unmanned aircraft program started with all of the different bureaus, and then dealing with all of their different policies, trying to establish a regulatory framework. Our current fleet, so as I said before, we started out back in the day with blimps and RC aircraft. Those are not depicted here. You can see the RQ-11, the T-Hawk, then the National Institute of Science and Technology loaned us a couple of MLB Superbats. Had similar issues with the sensors on those. Even though they worked, it was not the best sensor capability. About 3.5 years ago, we started with a company called 3D Robotics, and it's a small UAS, has about a 1.5 pound sensor capability. So you can put multiple sensors on it, which I'll get into here in just a moment. Just in the last week, we awarded a contract for the Firefly Pro S, which is a fixed-wing vertical takeoff platform that can carry about a 2-pound payload and has a flight duration of about 60 minutes for local type flights. The other one, the U.S. Geological Survey, has a Pulse Vapor 55, which is about a 6-foot single rotor aircraft from nose to tail. And then we just finished up a BLM on-call CWN contract for fiscal year 18, and we're going to be doing an award on that contract in the next couple weeks, and that is large fire support contract. As Tom mentioned, very, very high precise FLIR and electro-optical or standard vision payloads. And this is going to be constant duration over a fire. It has about anywhere from a 20 to 26 hour flight time. So we're working on that right now. So we have not awarded that, but we are going to be awarding that hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Okay, for last year, we trained 175 new remote pilots, which brought our total to 247 pilots. Last year alone, in fiscal year 17, we did just under 5,000 flights, and 500 different unique projects within those flights. We also trained, OAS and the BLM trained about 40. We're now up to 70 firefighter pilots, so that is another thing we're working with NWCG on to establish a framework for a ROS qualification for UAS positions. This year we're going to be training 140 additional firefighter pilots. Okay, the current fleet distribution throughout the United States, the majority of all the different dots are different bureaus, and each dot doesn't represent one specific pilot. It's just where a group of pilots is established. So it's all the way throughout the whole entire country, and all of those points are folks within the 9 different bureaus. You can see the concentration in the West, the majority of the pilots being on the BLM and U.S. Geological Survey side. As for our cameras and sensors, there's a multitude of different sensor technology that's out and available. The point and shoot and DSLR type cameras are great for high definition video. The main product that you derive out of those is either real-time situational awareness on fires in standard vision, or ortho imagery, to where you take multiple single images and you combine them, geotag them into one large georeference image with resolutions as high as less than 1 centimeter when you zoom in. LiDAR capability for developing LiDAR point clouds for digital elevation models or any other number of things. High definition video payloads, some of which are EO and IR, to be able to do real-time situational awareness on fires and or wildlife or crop monitoring. We also have several different thermal sensors, the most of which are all in development because of technology. So there's several different FLIR smaller sensors out there that have capability for what I see as the most important thing in the wildfire arena, which is real-time situational awareness. And we're very, very impressed with these sensors. The only issue, just like Mr. Mellon explained, is if we have any type of cloud cover or thick cloud cover, they're not very effective, but we tend to be below the inversions with the small UAS, so they have still been very effective for what we're using. The last being multispectral sensors for crop health and or animal or wildlife infrastructure, and it's just a 5-band camera, and it takes red, green, blue, red edge, and near IR images all at once, and you can combine those into different models to see what type of crop health or any other number of derivatives that you're trying to get. So remote sensing data, so why use the UAS? So you can see Landsat is 30-meter data. This is all the same image with different data sets. So UAS, we can get down to, you know, we can get as close as we want. We flew some dinosaur tracks in Moab, and we got sub-millimeter resolution. but we were only flying the unmanned aircraft five feet off the ground. So you have the ability to get highly precise, high-resolution imagery to be able to do classification or mortality or any, there's a bunch of different things that you can do with remote sensing data. Let's see, so sample mission. Sorry, bumping around here. My computer is freaking out on me. For some reason, my computer is not responding, so there we go. Okay, so some sample imagery on the left side. You can see some archaeological sites that we flew in Colorado, and we're able to document some new sites that were undiscovered previously. The other thing is on the recreation side, doing imagery for promotional videos or whatever the case may be for different bureaus. Within the National Park Service, this is the Grand Canyon. The search and rescue and law enforcement utilize this sensor technology to be able to search for missing persons or accident investigation for over the edge of cliffs, and have extremely high resolution, very low risk flight activity to be able to find people, whether it be in EO, which is what this is here, or IR. 2017, we had, when we were actually testing the Firefly Pro, which you see in the image there, we did 660 different flights with this aircraft and the 3DR Solo with IR payloads on it on 71 individual fires. And as stated before, it's an EO IR payload. And you can see your visibility there is about a quarter mile. This is on the Six Rivers National Forest. We're about 20 miles west of the coast, right by Crescent City, Redwood National Forest. So large trees. We were able to fly this aircraft out to about 6 miles from our location with an IR camera on it and give all of those large fires within that specific area. We had 3 different complexes that we were flying from this one site where we were giving them actionable real-time intelligence of point line and polygon data and IR video showing progression of fires. The reason they asked us to come and do this is because they had about 60 helicopters that were grounded because of IFR conditions and the inability to fly. So it was a pretty robust way to go out and get intel when you couldn't get it otherwise. So here's an image from the fixed wing VTOL. You can see some heat. That heat shown in the video is about 6 miles from our location. So we were on our way back from flying a couple different complex fires, noticed that heat, pulled the FTP site and noticed that the NIROPS had pinpointed some heat in that general location. So we decided to take another flight and go investigate it because that was lined up full force wind alignment with the predicted winds coming to come up the Smith River Canyon towards and take out a whole bunch more country. So it helped with that decision to hike down, take the 3DR Solo helicopters and get a better idea of what is exactly there. So we drove down to the spot, hiked up to the ridgeline, cut ourselves a little tiny helispot for the quadcopter, and this is on the left is the visibility. You can see, you're still less than quarter-mile visibility, and we were able to take off and get point line and polygon data back to the situation unit to be able to give a representation of exactly where that fire perimeter is. And this is taking off with the 3DR Solo helicopter with a radiometric IR sensor. Radiometric just means it can pinpoint heat source, so you can see the red dot popping around on the screen, and that heat is approximately 2 miles away from us. We were able to fly over and get really precise measurement of where the fire perimeter is in relation to what was shown by NIROP. So it really helps supplement that large-scale broad data and bring it down to a smaller high-resolution level. So here's the 3DR helicopter or quadcopter flying. We're able to fly beyond visual line of sight. And the other thing that we can do while it's flying is if you have crew crews or engines or any other ground-based personnel that need to get that same data and make the decision to whether they're going to go after it or not. We have different capability to show them real time of exactly what's going on in very, very low visibility environments, and the risk associated with it versus flying a manned helicopter with an IR sensor hanging out the side in that type of visibility. It just wasn't happening. So UAS was pretty beneficial in this circumstance. Here's another IR video. This was on a fire in Oregon, and you can actually see the inversion layer with the heat and where it's stopping right at the inversion layer. And this is, if you're looking at an EO image, you're still in less than 200-foot visibility. So it gives us the ability to get up. This is actually during a burnout operation, and we located this spot fire that was previously unknown, and we're able to go after it and put it out just by using the IR sensor. So smaller, in close, be able to go look at things that you otherwise couldn't see. And you're in, red cedar, and these are very large trees, 200+ foot tall trees. So it's pretty important. You can see how good the sensor is. So current projects we're working on, the picture on the right is a plastic sphere dispenser. Carries about 150 balls. Right now we're able to project out to burn anywhere from 25 to 50 acres at a time. If you have multiple platforms, you can just sequentially fly the aircraft and provide oversight duration for PSD operations. So we're working with the vendor to get the PSD machine completely dialed in, and it looks like it's going to be a very beneficial payload that's in development. As I mentioned before, the BLM fire call and needed contract for large fire support, long duration overhead aircraft. Aerial ignition, as I just mentioned. I'm a member of the Interagency Fire U.S. subcommittee, so we are trying to develop MWCG positions that go along with U.S. operator and or manager managing like a large fire asset, along with the data side of things and integrating data into a ROS orderable solution. We're also working on cellular communication relays, protection of national critical infrastructure sites, such as Bureau of Reclamation manages all the dams and large infrastructure in the country, and then the fire data sharing with the FTP side, be able to put UAS data in the same capacity so it's available on a broad scale. Current challenges we have is the ability to cloud process, which is all cloud processing softwares and hardwares need to be FedRAMP compliant. So that's a difficult thing, getting the vendors and different available cloud sourcing secure sites out there to be within policy. Educating the workforce, whether it be the fire personnel or overhead structure, on capabilities and limitations of these aircraft. The fire culture, as we all know, is an old school an old school group of people that we get out there with tools and chainsaws and cut fires down. So this new technology is definitely starting to be implemented, but there's definitely a cultural difference there. Lack of environmental data. A lot of the flights we're doing in IFR conditions, low visibility, having digital elevation profiles to be able to fly these aircraft rather than just on an IR sensor where you're flying it with the sensor is critically important. Full-time UAS operators versus collateral duty. So I think in the country there's only there's under 10 personnel within the DOI that are full-time UAS, whether it be manager or operator. So there's a lot of collateral duty, and with how much we had been requested in the last year or two to be used on fires, it's collateral duty. So it's definitely impacting some decision makers at the higher levels. Acquisition cycle for aircraft is pretty difficult. It's just because of the way the interior business centers, and we have to contract these aircraft the same as we would a manned asset. It just tends to take a fair amount of time to get these contracts done. System dependability, the 3DR Solo that we had over 5,000 missions last year, and we only had, I believe we only had 7 failures, and all of those were human caused, where it was operator error causing an accident or incident. So the future for the DOI US program, so contracting for on-call to increase access to data, automating the process so that we can process and disseminate the whatever it may be, whether it's point line and polygon data, or if it's real-time situational awareness video, or any other sensor technology, being able to get that out to the people that need it. Looking at moving into tactical missions, cargo and or water dropping with optionally piloted aircraft. I'll get into that in just a second here. And then a CETA for animal capture and release, and then aerial application of pesticide or aerial ignition type activities. So in the future, we'll have all the data is available for what mission sets we've had in case there's a FOIA request. There's a lot of interest in that on the civilian side. So this is an optionally piloted KMAX, and it showed and proved that we could deliver pinpoint cargo accuracy and water drops, whether it's in EO or IR. So this is during the demo in Boise, Idaho. You can see the sensor on this aircraft is highly capable, and just up and right of the crosshairs at the center frame is the last water drop. So you can see the difference in temperature there just from the last water drop. So highly capable sensor, highly, it's a Type 1 aircraft that can lift a lot of weight, carry a lot of cargo, carry a lot of water, and deliver it when other aircraft are unable to do so because of IFR conditions and or at night. So it opens the capability for that 12 to 14 hour time period where all manned assets are down to be able to utilize this technology. Some other products that have been derived. USGS did a full ortho 3D model of Devil's Tower in Wyoming, and they ended up getting about 3 centimeter resolution on the XY axis and about 7 centimeter on the vertical axis. So the way that was done is they hired climbers to go up and put ground control for aligning the imagery so that it's within less than 1/100 of a millimeter. And they placed ground control and scale bars so that you can orient the imagery directly to that, so for perfect frame reference and for resolution. So the camera goes and takes multiple pictures, and then you combine and geotag all that imagery, and you develop it into a 3D model that is accurate, like I said, within 3 to 7 centimeters depending on the axis. So the ability for U.S. Geological Survey to do change detection and or just model different infrastructure is really, really important. You can basically do this with anything, whether it's a tower or a rock slide or a landslide, anything like that. You have the same capability. Our end of the year report is available. It has all the statistics of number of flights, where we flew, what mission we were doing. That's available. If needed, you can get the PowerPoint from the webinar here, and you can click on that link, and that provides any and all information with all of our flights or what we did last year. And that is what I have for you guys. Is any questions, let me know. And our contact information, I have Brad Keckeritz on the screen. He's the division chief in our office, and then myself and Steve Ramekers work here as inspectors and fleet managers. So appreciate your time and appreciate the invite to come present.